What a demoralizing loss for Tennessee. Everything that Diego Pavia went viral for saying in the preseason, he backed up Saturday night. Vanderbilt runs the state of Tennessee. And for the Volunteers, I don't think they could have put together a worse second half if they tried. So what led to this 45-24 loss at home? I'm Paige Dauer. This is the Sports Page. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, you got to keep this taste in your mouth, man. Freaking sending out the seniors that way is just unacceptable.
If we're being honest, Tennessee has had a bad taste in its mouth for much of the season, and that hasn't really created any urgency within this team. And the further away that they get from that close loss to Georgia, the more it looks like a fluke for the Bulldogs and not really what Tennessee could look like this season, more that it was an off night for Georgia. Because for the most part this season, Tennessee has lacked serious discipline, whether in execution of the game plan or in mental toughness. And that's partly why second halves have looked much worse than the first halves. The opponents are kind of sensing the lack of discipline within the team, and whether that be, what we could see defensively from the missed tackles, from the failed third down stops, or even confidence slipping. Opponents piled on, and players throughout the season have as much said that they were mentally worn down. That's why second halves compounded, especially with the horrible missed tackles that we have all talked about at length this season. And for a minute, you thought maybe against Oklahoma and Florida, there was going to be this late season push, and Tennessee's defense was really going to turn it on. But save it for the regular season finale for the defense and the team kind of to fall back on old habits. They allowed Vanderbilt to put up about 580 yards of total offense. The last time Tennessee has allowed more than 580 yards, you have to go back to 2022 against South Carolina, where the Gamecocks put up 606 total yards of offense against Tennessee. I mean, the Tennessee defense has not looked this vulnerable in years.
Every single guy on this team that has more years to play here is going to remember that taste in their mouth, and we got to get to work starting freaking tomorrow.
And then offensively for Tennessee, the tone was set pretty much right away, and it was not a good one. Vanderbilt, overall, they're a pretty decent defense. They have a bigger weakness when it comes to their pass defense, as they allow about 250 yards a game through the air. But their rush attack, much better. They only give up about 100 yards a game. So why was the first play of the game for Tennessee a run play? Not only was it a run play, it was a loss of 1 yard on a Deshaun Bishop carry. You're at home. You have got to start the game with an aggressive mindset. You have one of the best receiving corps in the country, yet the first play of the game was a running play. And I know it's been an unpopular take that I've had for much of the season, but I haven't been convinced by Tennessee's running attack for much of the season. You take out the runs by Joey Aguilar, you take out the outlier of the longest run, and maybe they're averaging 3-4 yards a carry. Oftentimes that's pretty much getting stuffed at the line. You're not really getting to the second and third level on most of these runs for Tennessee. And for me, when I see that the first play of the game, whether Vanderbilt or other times this season, is a run play, that screams to me a lack of confidence somewhere on the offense. I went back and I went to the first play of all of these games, and most of the time it's pass plays for Tennessee this season. They've found ways to start aggressively in these games, but then sometimes get away from that in the second half. And there's a distinct difference between playing conservative and playing scared. And I haven't really seen Tennessee play conservative this season. Against Syracuse, it's a pass play, Power 4 games. Georgia, pass play. Mississippi State, pass. Arkansas, pass. Alabama, pass. But what changes in that Alabama game? It's a pick six at the end of the first half. How does Tennessee start the second half? Trivia question. A run play. Kentucky, it was a run play, but that's Kentucky. Oklahoma, Tennessee is sacked, and then it's a rush play by Deshaun Bishop. Florida, pass play. Vanderbilt, run. Loss of 1 yard. How did they start the second half against Vanderbilt? 3 and out. Not able to get anything going on the ground either in the second half. And I think maybe why Tennessee ended up having, I think it was 31 rush attempts in this game, only going for about 83 yards, tells you that there was a lack of confidence most likely in the offensive line. Vanderbilt entered this game averaging about 6 tackles for loss a game. They got 10 against Tennessee. So Joey really didn't even have much time to get the ball downfield, and the one touchdown that he got to Chris Brazzell, I believe it was in the first half, if he took a half a second longer to get that ball out, he definitely would have been sacked from behind on that one. And what frustrates me the most about the way that Tennessee played in this game was 3 Tennessee had 3 explosive plays on the ground for about 68 yards, and they ended with 83. Yet they had 31 rush attempts. They were not able to get anything going on the ground, but they weren't adjusting.
Result and coaches and players all play a part in it. So give them credit, but extremely disappointed in what we did in the second half.
Now, Josh Heupel really hasn't been that explicit this season when talking about what fell short and what has led him to being disappointed in the team's effort, because he often says we. He doesn't always say players and coaches. So that kind of stood out to me a little bit. And when he's talking about being disappointed in execution and game plan, well, that's practice. That's film study. So that then reminded me a little bit more inside the brain of Paige Dauer was the comments that he had following the New Mexico State win, that he was, kind of disappointed in the practice habits, that there were a couple of days or times where they lacked competitive edge. So that tells me that there is some level of consistency that is not being met, not only on the field on Saturdays, but Monday through Friday in the film room or in practice. So I asked Joey Aguilar after the game, inside the brain of Paige Dauer, my thought process, what do you think has led to the consistent level of inconsistency this season? And he said it comes back down to practice.
I think we just got to, attack practice every day more seriously. And not saying that we don't, but, there's an extra level of urgency that we can have attacking that practice week by week.
Tennessee's defense as a whole held Diego Pavia to his fewest explosive passing yards in the last 4 games. Just to 200 yards. So for as dynamic as Diego Pavia is, at least in the first half, they did their job. But poor game planning, inability to make adjustments cost them in the second half. Not asserting dominance or a certain level of confidence in the first half by running it and it being a loss of 1 to start their drive in the first half doesn't really instill a ton of belief in your players that they can go out there and compete. And maybe that's just too niche of a point, but I think when you start these games not where you're your strongest, which is in the pass game, I think that tells you that you're timid somewhere. I think it says that you're lacking certain confidence somewhere. And I think all of that is now leading to a lot of, people calling for certain coaches' jobs. And that doesn't necessarily mean that, there has to be a ton of, coaching turnover within the Tennessee football program. But there's a lot of attention on Tim Banks as the defensive coordinator. The defense has not really met any of the standards for much of the season. You could look to special teams as being a concern, and that's either, internal promotions, bringing somebody in, being more aggressive in the transfer portal, and then you look to play calling on offense. Do you bring in somebody else? Do you relinquish, some of the control with the play calling, right? Or is it overall just needing to be more aggressive in the transfer portal than they had been in the last couple of seasons? Regardless of what the changes are, there need to be changes. And it needs to be meaningful changes across the board because I think at this point it's a crucial time in Josh Heupel's tenure where hard choices are going to have to be made to preserve the progress that he's made in his 5 seasons on Rocky Top. They've come a long way in 5 seasons. How much of the distractions, had a lasting domino effect, lasting ripple effect on this team kind of remains to be seen, but certainly ended up being a little bit too much more than what this team could overcome by the end of the regular season. And now a bowl game in Florida seems pretty much all but gone, now being 8-4 on the season. But what changes are you guys hoping or expecting to see heading into the offseason?
Your business can't afford the downtime that comes with a leaky roof. So whether you need a repair or a replacement, count on the professionals from McGuire Roofing and Construction. Your protection is our passion. We service and sell all types of roofs and have worked with some of East Tennessee's most recognized names. We have 25 years of experience and free inspection estimates, plus best in business warranties. Put an end to your roofing problems today by calling McGuire Roofing and Construction.